The salvage ship drifted through the darkness like a tired bird. Inside the cramped cockpit, Una checked the scanners one more time. Nothing. Just empty space and dead rocks floating in the black. She rubbed her tired eyes and wondered if this trip would be another waste of fuel. "Still getting that signal?" she asked. Minji, her pilot, nodded without looking up from the controls. Her fingers moved across the screen with practiced ease. "Yeah, coming from that research station ahead. Been abandoned for at least 2 months based on the power signatures." Una leaned forward. Through the viewport, she could see the station now. It was of Wrath design, all sharp angles and dark metal. The Wrath built everything like weapons, even their homes. The station tumbled slowly, its lights dead except for a weak emergency beacon. "Wrath don't abandon stations," Donghyun said from the back. The engineer was checking his tools, making sure everything was ready. "They're too paranoid. Something bad must have happened." Una knew he was right. The Wrath Empire controlled half the galaxy. They were powerful, ancient, and they trusted no one. For them to leave an entire research station empty meant something had gone very wrong. That usually meant danger, but it also meant valuable salvage. "We need the money," Una said quietly. "One more job and we can pay off the ship. Then we're free." The other two said nothing. They all knew the truth. Freedom was expensive when you were human. The galaxy saw humans as useful but unimportant, good for labor, decent at fixing things but never special, never powerful. Just another young species trying to survive among the ancient empires. Una had spent 5 years doing salvage work and she was tired. Tired of scraping by, tired of being dismissed. Most of all, she was tired of not knowing what happened to her brother. Taman had vanished 5 years ago while working on an archaeological dig in Wrath space. No body, no explanation. Just gone. Sometimes she took these dangerous jobs hoping to find a clue, any clue about where he went. The ship docked with a heavy clang. Una pulled on her environment suit and checked her oxygen levels. Minji and Donghyun did the same. They'd done this dance 100 times before. Go in, grab anything valuable, get out before someone noticed. Simple. The station's airlock opened with a hiss of stale air. Una's helmet display showed the atmosphere was breathable, but she kept her suit sealed. Better safe than sorry. She activated her flashlight and stepped inside. The corridor was dark. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting strange shadows on the walls. Una's boots echoed on the metal floor as she moved forward. Behind her, Minji and Donghyun followed, their own lights cutting through the darkness. "See anything?" Minji whispered. "Not yet," Una replied. Her scanner showed no life signs. No bodies either, which was strange. If the crew evacuated, they would have taken the emergency beacon with them. If they died, there should be remains. They moved deeper into the station. Every room was empty. Workstations sat abandoned mid-task. A cup of cold liquid sat on one desk, frozen in the low temperature. Whatever happened here, it happened fast. Then they found the lab. The door had been melted, the metal warped and blackened. Una felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. She pushed through the ruined door and stopped. The lab was destroyed. Equipment lay scattered across the floor. Scorch marks covered every surface, and in the center of the room were bodies, at least what was left of them. The Wrath scientists had been burned so badly that Una could barely tell they had once been living beings. They were just ash and bone frozen in positions of agony. "By the stars," Donghyun breathed. "What could do this?" Una's scanner was going crazy. Energy readings spiked all over the place. Something in this room had released massive amounts of heat and power. She moved carefully between the bodies, trying not to disturb them. Then she saw it. In the exact center of the lab, sitting on a melted pedestal, was a black tablet. It was maybe the size of her hand, perfectly smooth, and it seemed to absorb the light from her flashlight. Even in the ruined lab, even surrounded by death, the tablet looked untouched. Perfect. Wrong. "Don't touch it," Minji said quickly. "Una, we should go now." But Una couldn't look away. The tablet called to her, not with sound but with something deeper. A feeling in her chest, a pull she couldn't explain. She had felt this way once before, when she held Taman's last message to her. A sense of connection, of recognition. She stepped closer. Her glove reached out. Somewhere behind her, Donghyun was shouting at her to stop. Minji was yelling. But their voices seemed far away. All Una could see was the tablet. Her fingers touched the black surface. Everything in the galaxy said this should kill her. Everyone who touched ancient artifacts died. The Vrath had legends about objects like this, cursed relics from the beings who came before. Touch them and burn. Touch them and die. That was the law. But Yuna didn't burn. Instead, warmth spread up her arm. Not painful heat, but the warmth of sunlight on skin. The warmth of home. The tablet pulsed once, twice, and then a voice spoke in her mind. A single word, her name, Yuna. She gasped and pulled her hand back. The tablet came with it, stuck to her glove like it belonged there. The warmth faded but didn't disappear. It settled somewhere behind her heart, a new presence in her body. What did you do? Minji asked, her voice high with fear. Yuna looked at her crew. She could see their faces clearly now, even though the room was dark. Everything looked sharper, clearer. She could feel the tablet in her hand, but it wasn't just an object anymore. It was part of her, connected to her thoughts. I don't know, she said honestly, but I think we need to leave. Right now. As if responding to her words, alarms began blaring, not from the dead station, but from their ship. Minji checked her scanner and her face went pale. Vrath warships, she said. 3 of them, dropping out of faster-than-light travel right on top of us. They ran, through the corridors, past the empty rooms, racing for their ship. Yuna could feel something building inside her, like pressure before a storm. The tablet was doing something, changing something. She didn't understand it, but she knew they were in terrible danger. They reached the ship and Minji threw herself into the pilot's seat. The engines roared to life. Through the viewport, Yuna could see the Vrath warships, massive and terrible, their weapons already glowing with deadly energy. They're hailing us, Dongyun said, demanding we surrender. Go, Yuna ordered. Minji didn't hesitate. The ship lurched away from the station just as the first weapons fired. The empty research station exploded in a ball of flame. They were already racing away, pushing the engines to their limit. But the Vrath followed. Of course they did. And as Yuna sat in her chair, feeling the strange warmth of the tablet in her hand, she realized that her life had just changed forever. She had touched something that should have killed her. She had survived something impossible. And now the most powerful empire in the galaxy wanted her dead. The ship shook as another blast hit their shields. Red warning lights flashed across every screen. Minji cursed and pulled the controls hard, sending them spinning away from another attack. The Vrath warships followed like hungry wolves. Shields at 40%, Dongyun called out. His hands moved across the engineering console, trying to route more power to their defenses. We can't take many more hits. Yuna sat frozen in her seat. The tablet was still in her hand. She had tried to put it down but found she couldn't. It stayed pressed against her palm like it had grown there. The warmth had spread through her whole body now. She could feel something moving in her mind, like thoughts that weren't hers. Another blast rocked the ship. This one got through. Sparks flew from a damaged panel. The lights flickered and died, leaving them in emergency lighting. That's it, Minji said through gritted teeth. One more hit and we're done. Yuna closed her eyes. She could feel the Vrath ships out there, feel their weapons charging for another shot. The tablet showed her things, gave her information she shouldn't have. She knew exactly where the ships were, what they were doing, even what the crews were thinking. It was too much. Too strange. But mixed with that strangeness was anger. These ships wanted to kill them. Kill her crew, kill her friends. For what? For touching something? For surviving when she should have died? No. The word formed in her mind with absolute certainty. She wouldn't let them die here. She wouldn't. The tablet responded to her thought. Power surged through her body. Before she could understand what was happening, dark energy burst from her hand. It formed a barrier around their ship, a shield of pure black that swallowed the Vrath weapons fire like it was nothing. What? Dongyun stared at the screens. What is that? Yuna opened her eyes. She could see the barrier, feel it like an extension of her own arm. The tablet had done this. Or she had done it through the tablet. She wasn't sure which. Minji, go, she said. Her voice sounded strange even to her own ears. Jump to faster than light now. The pilot didn't argue. The ship's engines screamed and reality bent around them. Stars stretched into lines and they were gone, leaving the Vrath warships far behind. The barrier faded when they dropped out of faster-than-light travel hours later. Yuna slumped in her chair, exhausted. The tablet's warmth had turned cold. She looked at her hand and found she could finally release it. The tablet clattered to the floor. Don't touch it, she warned as Dongyun moved toward it. He froze. Yuna, what happened back there? What is that thing? She shook her head. I don't know, but it's dangerous. More dangerous than we thought. Minji brought up a communication screen. Her face was grim. You need to see this. The screen showed a galactic news broadcast. Yuna's face filled the display. The Vrath Empire had declared her a threat to all civilized species. They claimed she had stolen a weapon of mass destruction. Anyone who helped her would be considered an enemy. The reward for her capture was enough money to buy a planet. We're dead, Dongyun said quietly. Every bounty hunter in the galaxy will be looking for us. Yuna felt sick. This wasn't supposed to happen. They were just salvage workers, small, unimportant. How had everything gone so wrong? We need help, Minji said. Someone who knows about ancient artifacts. Someone who can tell us what that thing is. Yuna thought about it. There was someone. Someone who had worked with her brother before he disappeared. A human scientist named Hyunwoo who had spent his whole life studying the Ancient Ones. He lived on New Busan, a remote human colony on the edge of known space. I know where to go, she said. New Busan was a small world, barely worth mentioning on most maps. Its single city clung to the coast of a gray ocean, home to maybe 50,000 humans who wanted to be left alone. Perfect for hiding, they landed at a public dock and paid cash to avoid leaving records. Yuna picked up the tablet carefully, wrapping it in cloth. It felt dormant now, sleeping, but she could still sense it in her mind. A connection that wouldn't break. Hyunwoo's home was on the edge of the city, a small building filled with books and artifacts. The old man answered the door with suspicious eyes that widened when he recognized Yuna. Stars above, he breathed. You look just like him. Like Taemin. The name hit Yuna like a punch. You knew my brother? Knew him? Hyunwoo laughed bitterly. He was my best student. Brilliant mind. Too curious for his own good. Come in, quickly. If you're here, you're in trouble. Inside, Yuna explained everything. The station, the bodies, the tablet. When she unwrapped it to show Hyunwoo, the old man actually stepped back in fear. The obsidian slate, he whispered. I thought it was legend. The Vrath have been searching for this for thousands of years. What is it? Yuna asked. Hyunwoo sat down heavily. It's a key, a piece of technology from the Ancient Ones. They were the first species, Yuna, the ones who came before everyone else. They built wonders and horrors beyond imagination. And then they vanished. Most species think they died in some great war, but your brother, he found evidence of something else. He pulled out old data files showing them on a screen. Yuna saw images of dig sites, ancient writing, and DNA comparisons that made no sense. Taemin discovered that humans share genetic markers with the Ancient Ones, Hyunwoo continued. Not similar markers. Exact matches. We're not just another species, Yuna. We're their descendants. They didn't die. They changed, evolved, became something simpler. Became us. The room felt too small suddenly. That's impossible, is it? Hyunwoo pointed at the tablet. That artifact kills everyone who touches it. Everyone except you. The Ancient Ones locked their technology, made it respond only to their own genetic code. The Vrath can't use it. The other ancient species can't use it. But humans can, because we carry the key in our very DNA. Yuna looked at the tablet with new understanding. It hadn't bonded with her by accident. It recognized her, recognized what she was. Where is Taemin? She asked. What happened to him? Hyunwoo's face fell. He found coordinates to something called the Vault of First Dawn. He said it was where the Ancient Ones stored their greatest secrets. He went there to prove his theories. He never came back. Before Yuna could respond, the windows exploded inward. Armored figures crashed into the room, weapons raised. They moved with inhuman speed and precision. Vrath soldiers, their armor marked with the symbol of the Empire's elite forces. Leading them was something worse. A figure covered in cybernetic enhancements, more machine than living being. Its eyes glowed red as it fixed on Yuna. The human with the slate, it said in a voice like grinding metal. The Empress wants you alive. Your crew can die. Yuna felt the tablet pulse. Power rushed through her body without her asking for it. When the soldiers opened fire, black energy erupted from her hands. It didn't just stop the bullets. It disintegrated them, turned them to nothing, and kept going. The blast hit the soldiers and they screamed as they simply ceased to exist. The cyborg warrior threw itself aside, barely avoiding the wave of destruction. But the building wasn't so lucky. The energy tore through walls, through the structure itself. "Run!" Hyunwoo shouted. They ran. Behind them, half the building collapsed. Yuna could hear screaming, could smell burning, could feel the weight of what she'd just done. She had killed those soldiers. Destroyed part of the city. The tablet's power was too much. She couldn't control it. They made it back to the ship somehow. As they lifted off, Yuna looked back and saw the destruction she'd caused. Fires burning, people running, and standing in the rubble, watching them escape, was the cyborg warrior. Even from this distance, she could feel its cold determination. "He'll follow us," Minji said quietly. "That thing won't stop." Yuna knew she was right. The Vrath wouldn't stop. They would chase her across the galaxy if they had to. And every time she used the tablet's power, more people would die. She couldn't let that happen. But Hyunwoo had given her something before they escaped. Coordinates. The location of the Vault of First Dawn, where Taemin had disappeared. Where the answers waited. "We need allies," Yuna said. "We can't fight the Vrath Empire alone." "Allies?" Dongyun laughed harshly. "Who would help us?" "We're humans, nobody." Yuna touched the tablet. It showed her things, possibilities, paths forward, and one path led to something unexpected. "I know someone," she said slowly. "Someone who hates the Vrath as much as we do." The bone market floated in neutral space, a massive station built from the wreckage of 1,000 ships. It was a place where criminals, exiles, and rebels met to trade things no civilized world would allow. Weapons, information, forbidden technology, and sometimes revolution. Yuna walked through the crowded corridors with her hood up, trying not to draw attention. Minji and Donghyun flanked her, their hands near their weapons. The tablet was hidden under her coat, but she could feel its weight. Always there, always watching through her eyes. "This is insane," Donghyun muttered. "Half the species here would sell us to the Vrath for pocket change. The other half want to see the Vrath burn," Yuna replied. "Those are the ones we need." They reached a bar deep in the station's core. The sign above the door was written in 6 different languages, all promising cheap drinks and expensive silence. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and conversation. Dozens of species mixed together, unified only by their hatred of the empires that ruled the galaxy. Yuna spotted her contact in the back corner. Theron was a Vrath, but not like the ones who had hunted her. He was older, scarred, and his uniform had been stripped of all rank insignia. An exile, a traitor to his own people. She sat across from him. He looked at her with cold eyes that had seen too much war. "You're the human everyone is talking about," he said. Not a question. "The one who stole the obsidian slate." "I didn't steal it," Yuna said. "It bonded to me." Theron leaned forward. "Impossible. The slate kills anyone who touches it. I've seen it happen. Watch 3 of our best psychics turn to ash trying to claim its power." Yuna pulled back her sleeve, revealing her arm. She focused, and black energy traced patterns across her skin like living tattoos. Theron's eyes widened. "By the void," he breathed. "The legends were true. Humans really are descended from the ancient ones." "I need your help," Yuna said simply. "I need to reach the Vault of First Dawn. It's in Vrath territory in the galactic core." "I can't get there alone," Theron laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. "You're asking me to commit suicide. The Empress has the entire fleet searching for you. Every system is locked down. You'd need an army to break through. Then help me build one." Silence fell over their corner of the bar. Theron studied her face, looking for something. Madness, maybe, or hope. Finally he spoke. "Why should anyone follow a human? You're young, weak, and your species has never done anything worth remembering." Yuna had expected this. She stood and raised her voice so the whole bar could hear. "I can break the chains." Conversation stopped. Every eye turned to her. "The Vrath control half the galaxy with psychic collars," she continued. "They enslaved the Kryn. They bound the Sylph. They use fear and pain to keep entire species under their boot. But the slate can undo that. Watch." She had noticed him when they entered. A Kryn warrior, massive and scaled, sitting alone in the corner. His neck bore the silver collar that all Kryn slaves wore. It controlled his mind, forced obedience, caused agony if he tried to resist. Yuna walked to him. The Kryn looked up with dead eyes. She placed her hand on the collar. The tablet's power flowed through her fingers, gentle this time, controlled. The collar sparked once and fell away. The Kryn gasped. His eyes cleared. For the first time in years, maybe decades, he was free. What? He touched his neck in disbelief. What did you do? I broke your chains, Una said. And I can break more. Every Kryn slave in the galaxy. Every species the Vrath have bound. But I need help. The bar erupted. Species that had been enemies for centuries suddenly found common ground. The Kryn warrior, his name was Garen, dropped to one knee. I will follow you, he said. To death and beyond. It started there. Word spread through the bone market like fire through dry grass. The human who could break chains. The one who carried the ancient power. Within hours, ships began to arrive. Kryn warriors seeking freedom. Sylth hive ships wanting revenge. Pirates who hated the Vrath. Exiles and rebels and the desperate. Theron watched it all with calculating eyes. Finally, he approached Una again. You've started something that can't be stopped, he said. The Empress will see this as open rebellion. She'll bring the full might of the Empire down on us. I know, Una said. That's why we need to move fast. Can you get us through Vrath space? Theron was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. I have loyal officers. Ships that would follow me into the void itself. We've been waiting for a reason to strike back. He smiled grimly. I think you just gave us one. Over the next days, the fleet assembled. It was a ragged collection. Nothing like the organized armadas of the great empires. But it had something those fleets didn't. It had hope. Una spent her time learning to control the slate. Each day, she pushed a little further. She could create shields now without destroying everything around her. She could sense ships across vast distances. The slate showed her things, taught her things, but always at a cost. Each time she used its power, she felt a little less human. A little more like something else, Minji noticed. You're different, she said one night. They were alone in the ship's small galley. Colder. More distant. Una wanted to deny it, but couldn't. The slate changes me. I can feel it. Sometimes I have thoughts that aren't mine, memories of things I never experienced. Are you still you? Minji asked quietly. Una didn't have an answer. The slate whispered to her in those quiet moments. It showed her visions of the ancient ones. They had been powerful beyond measure, able to reshape reality with a thought. But that power had destroyed them. They had gone too far, wanted too much, and in the end they had torn themselves apart in a war that nearly ended all life in the galaxy. The slate was their final creation, a tool to undo their mistakes, to give their descendants a choice. But what choice? Una didn't understand yet. The fleet prepared to move. Theron's scouts reported that the Vrath had pulled forces back to defend the galactic core. The Empress knew where they were going. She was waiting. This is suicide, Dongyun said, looking at the tactical displays. We're outnumbered 100 to 1. Then we don't fight, Una said. Not the way they expect. She had a plan. It was crazy and dangerous and probably wouldn't work, but it was all they had. When the fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, they headed not for the vault but for the Cinder Reaches, a region of space filled with dying stars and cosmic debris. The Vrath fleet was waiting there just as expected. Hundreds of warships, organized and deadly. Leading them was the Empress herself. Her flagship was a massive thing, bristling with weapons. She broadcast a message across all channels. Surrender the slate, the Empress said. Her voice was cold and absolute. Surrender it and your deaths will be quick. Resist and I will hunt down every human colony in known space. I will glass your worlds and sell your children into slavery. You have 1 hour to decide. The transmission ended. Una's allies looked at her, waiting. She's lying, Theron said. Even if you surrender, she'll kill everyone anyway. Can't leave witnesses. Una nodded. She had known that. The Empress didn't want peace. She wanted the slate's power for herself. Wanted to become what the Ancient Ones had been. Gods. Then we show her why that's a bad idea, Una said. She closed her eyes and reached out through the slate. Not to destroy, but to connect. She touched the minds of every human in the fleet. Dozens of them scattered across different ships. Most were just crew members, engineers, and pilots. Ordinary people. But they all carried the ancient genetic markers. They all had the potential. Una shared the slate's knowledge with them. Not all of it. Just a spark. Just enough to wake something sleeping in their DNA. Across the fleet, humans gasped as new awareness flooded their minds. Engineers suddenly understood alien technology instinctively. Pilots gained reflexes that shouldn't be human. Weapons officers could predict enemy movements before they happened. Humanity was waking up. What did you do? Minji asked, staring at her own hands. She could see things now, sense things. The ship's systems were clear in her mind like a map. Leveled the field, Yuna said. The Vrath fleet attacked, but they found their enemies had changed. Ships moved with impossible precision. Weapons fire came from angles that shouldn't be possible. The ragtag rebel fleet fought like they had trained together for years instead of days. But it wasn't enough. The Vrath had too many ships, too much firepower. Slowly, inevitably, the rebel fleet was being pushed back. Ships died. People Yuna had promised to protect were burning in the void. She felt their deaths through the slate. Each one was a knife in her heart. The Empress had brought something worse. A massive device on her flagship, ancient technology like the slate but twisted, corrupted. It began to pulse with sickly light. That's a consuming star, Theron said, his voice filled with horror. It drains life energy from entire solar systems. If she activates it here, everyone in the fleet would die, not just killed but erased. Their very life force consumed to power the Empress's weapon. Yuna felt the slate respond. It showed her how to stop the device. All she had to do was release its full power. Become what the Ancient Ones had been. Reshape reality itself. But if she did that, she would stop being human forever. Yuna stood on the bridge of their ship, watching the consuming star charge its terrible power. Around her, the fleet was dying. Each explosion was another life gone. Another person who had trusted her. The slate whispered seductively in her mind. Use me, release everything, save them all. But Yuna remembered the visions it had shown her. The Ancient Ones had thought the same thing. Used their power to save their people. And in doing so, they had destroyed themselves and nearly ended the galaxy. There has to be another way, she said. Minji looked at her with desperate eyes. Yuna, if you don't do something, we're all dead in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Not enough time to think. Not enough time to plan. But maybe enough time to try something impossible. Yuna reached out through the slate, but not to the humans this time. She touched every mind in the rebel fleet. Kryn, Sylph, pirates, exiles. All of them. She showed them what she had seen. The truth about the Ancient Ones. The price of absolute power. And then she showed them something else. A different path. Not one being with godlike power, but thousands working together. Not domination, but cooperation. Trust me, she broadcast to every ship. Just for a moment, trust. She didn't know if they would. These species had fought each other for millennia. But desperation makes strange allies. They trusted. Yuna wove their minds together, not controlling them, but connecting them. A network of consciousness spanning the whole fleet. Through that network, she channeled the slate's power. Not all of it. Just enough. Distributed among thousands instead of concentrated in one. The rebel fleet moved as one. Every ship perfectly synchronized. They didn't try to fight the Vrath Armada. Instead, they focused everything on the Empress's flagship. Every weapon. Every ounce of power. The combined assault hit the consuming star before it could fully activate. The ancient device shattered. Feedback tore through the flagship, crippling it, but the effort cost them. The connection Yuna had created was too much. She felt herself burning out, the slate's power consuming her from within. She was dying. No! Taemin's voice. Yuna's eyes snapped open. Impossible. Her brother was on the other side of the galaxy, trapped in the vault. But she heard him clearly, felt his presence through the slate. Yuna, listen to me, Taemin said urgently. You're trying to do too much alone. The slate isn't meant for one person. It's a key. Use it to open the vault. I'm here. I can help. She didn't understand, but she didn't have time to question. Yuna pulled back her consciousness, severing the connection with the fleet. They stumbled, confused but alive. The Empress's flagship was crippled, but the rest of the Vrath Armada was still coming. Minji, get us out of here, Yuna gasped. Coordinates for the Vault of First Dawn, now, but now. Their ship, along with a dozen others that could still move, jumped to faster-than-light travel. They left the battle behind, racing toward the galactic core. The vault existed in a pocket dimension anchored to a dying neutron star. The coordinates led them to a point in space where reality felt thin. Wrong. Yuna could sense the vault beyond, waiting. She held up the slate. It pulsed once, and space tore open. A doorway formed, showing a corridor of impossible architecture. I have to go in, she said. Alone. Absolutely not, Donghyun protested. We're not letting you. It will only open for me, Yuna interrupted. The slate recognizes my genetic code. Anyone else who tries to enter will die. Minji grabbed her arm. Then we'll wait. Right here. And if you're not back in 2 hours, we're coming in anyway. Yuna hugged them both. She didn't know if she would see them again. The vault corridor was cold and silent. Yuna's footsteps echoed on the crystalline floor. The walls were covered in symbols she shouldn't understand but did. The slate translated them. Warnings. Please. The last messages of the Ancient Ones. Turn back. The power here destroys all who seek it. We left this as a warning, not a gift. But Yuna kept walking. She could feel Taman ahead, his presence like a lighthouse in the dark. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. It was a museum of horrors. Weapons that could shatter planets hung suspended in energy fields. Devices that manipulated time sat on pedestals like art, and everywhere archives. The collected knowledge of beings who had reshaped the galaxy according to their will. In the center of it all was a stasis field. Inside stood Taman. Her brother looked exactly as she remembered. Young, curious, alive. But his eyes were open, staring at her, and she realized he was conscious. Trapped in frozen time but aware. For 5 years he had been locked here, unable to move or speak or even blink. How do I free him? Yuna asked the empty air. You don't. A new voice, ancient and sad. Light coalesced into a form. Not quite solid. Not quite real. An artificial intelligence, Yuna realized. A program left behind by the Ancient Ones. I am the witness, it said. Guardian of this place. Keeper of our greatest shame. Let my brother go, Yuna demanded. I kept him alive as bait, the witness said simply. I knew you would come. The slate bonded to you and I needed you here. Because you're dangerous, Yuna. More dangerous than you know. The witness waved a hand and images filled the chamber. Yuna saw the Ancient Ones at the height of their power. They were beautiful and terrible. They reshaped worlds on a whim, created and destroyed life as easily as breathing. They thought they were gods, the witness continued, and like all who think themselves gods, they grew arrogant. They fought each other for dominance. Their war nearly ended all existence. The images showed devastation beyond comprehension. Stars collapsing, galaxies burning, reality itself coming apart at the seams. In their final moments they understood, the witness said. Power without wisdom leads only to destruction. So they created the slate. A tool to undo everything they had done. They used it to scatter their consciousness across the universe, encoding themselves into primitive species. They chose to forget, to start again, hoping their descendants would learn from their mistakes. And did we? Yuna asked quietly. You're here, the witness said, seeking power to fight your enemies, just like they did. The cycle begins again. Anger flared in Yuna. I'm not like them. I don't want to be a god. I just want to save my people. They said the same thing, the witness replied. At the beginning. The chamber shook. Alarms blared. The witness looked up in surprise. Impossible. The Empress found a way in. Through the walls, Yuna could see ships breaching the pocket dimension. The Vrath Armada, led by the cyborg warrior from New Busan. They had tracked her here somehow. Followed her to the vault. You have a choice, the witness said urgently. Merge fully with the slate. Become what the Ancient Ones were. You'll have the power to destroy the Vrath, to save your brother, to do anything you wish. But you'll stop being human. Stop being you. Yuna looked at Taman, still frozen. She could save him. Could save everyone. All it would cost was herself. The slate pulsed in her hand. Ready. Waiting. Eager. She thought about the visions it had shown her. The Ancient Ones at the end, realizing what they had become. Monsters with the faces of gods. Power without restraint. Without mercy. Without humanity. No, Yuna said. The witness seemed surprised. You refuse? Even knowing your brother and your friends will die? I refuse to repeat your mistakes, Yuna said. The Ancient Ones failed because they tried to do everything alone. Tried to control everything. But that's not what makes humans special. She pressed her hand against the stasis field, holding Taman. Humans aren't strong because we have power. We're strong because we know when to share it, when to trust others, when to admit we can't do everything alone. The slate flared with light, but this time Yuna didn't try to take all its power. She offered it instead. Offered to be partners, not master and tool. The response was overwhelming. The slate's consciousness, ancient and vast, touched hers. For a moment, Una saw everything. Every possibility. Every path. The weight of millennia of knowledge threatened to crush her. But she held on. Not by being strong. By being stubborn. By remembering who she was. "I'm Una," she said through gritted teeth. A human. A salvage worker. Taemin's sister. "I'm not trying to be a god. I'm just trying to do the right thing." The slate understood. Or maybe it remembered. Remembered what it was like to be mortal. Remembered the beings who created it, before power had corrupted them. The stasis field shattered. Taemin collapsed and Una caught him. Her brother gasped, sucking in his first breath in 5 years. "Una," he said weakly. "Is it really you?" "It's me," she said, tears streaming down her face. The witness watched them. Its expression, if an AI could have expressions, was unreadable. "Perhaps," it said slowly, "I was wrong about humanity." The chamber shook again. The Vrath were breaking through the vault's defenses. "I can't hold them back," the witness said. "But I can give you what you need. The slate is yours, Una, but I'm setting limits. You can access its knowledge, use its power, but it will always ask you one question before it acts." "What question?" Una asked. "Is this necessary?" The witness said. "Is this just? Use the slate with wisdom, not just strength. That's the lesson the ancient ones never learned. Perhaps you can." The vault began to collapse. The pocket dimension was unstable, tearing itself apart. Una helped Taemin to his feet and ran for the exit. Behind them, the witness's form faded. "Don't waste this chance," it called after them. "Humanity's second chance. Make it count." They burst from the vault just as it collapsed behind them, space folding in on itself in a silent implosion. Una and Taemin tumbled into their ship's cargo bay where Minji and Donghyun pulled them to safety. "You found him," Minji breathed, staring at Taemin. But there was no time for reunion. Through the viewport they saw the full might of the Vrath Armada, hundreds of warships all surrounding them, and beyond them something that made Una's blood run cold, Earth's sun. The Empress had brought the war to humanity's homeworld. "No," Una whispered. "No, she wouldn't, but she would." The communication channels lit up with a broadcast from the Empress's rebuilt flagship. "Humans of the galaxy," the Empress's voice rang out. "Your kind has harbored a criminal, hidden a weapon of mass destruction. The penalty for this crime is extinction." On the main screen, Una watched in horror as Vrath warships took position around Earth's sun. They were deploying the consuming star again, a new one, larger than before. "If the slate is not surrendered in 1 hour," the Empress continued, "we will drain your star. Earth and all your inner colonies will freeze. 5 billion humans will die. The choice is yours." The transmission ended. Taemin, still weak but recovering fast, looked at his sister. "Don't do it. Don't give her that power. She'll use it to enslave the entire galaxy." "I know," Una said. But what choice did she have? 5 billion lives against the freedom of the galaxy? Her communicator buzzed. Theron's voice came through. "The Empress has gone mad with ambition," he said. "My fleet is ready. We'll fight to the last ship if needed." More transmissions came in. The Kryn, the Sylph, pirates and rebels from across the galaxy, all ready to fight, all ready to die to stop the Empress, but it wasn't enough. They couldn't win. The Vrath had too many ships, too much power. Then something unexpected happened. Human ships began appearing. Not military vessels, cargo haulers, mining ships, personal craft, thousands of them, dropping out of faster-than-light travel around Earth. A new voice came over the broadcast. Old and firm. "This is Admiral Junho of the Earth Defense Fleet," he said. "The Vrath Empire has threatened our home. Humanity's response is simple." No, Una's eyes widened. She knew that name. Admiral Junho was a legend, a hero from the last major conflict. He had retired years ago, but apparently he wasn't done fighting. "Every human ship within range is converging on Earth," Junho continued. "We might not have warships. We might not have fancy weapons. But we have something the Vrath never understood. We have each other." More ships appeared. Fishing vessels. Medical transports. Even old colony ships that shouldn't be spaceworthy. And on each one, humans had armed themselves with whatever they could find. Mining lasers. Industrial cutters. Improvised weapons. They were outmatched, outgunned. They would die, but they came anyway. Tears streamed down Una's face. This was humanity. Not powerful. Not ancient. Just stubborn and brave and stupid enough to fight when fighting made no sense. Yuna, Taman said gently, the Slate chose you for a reason, not because you're powerful. Because you understand what it means to be human. Show them. She looked at the slate in her hand. It pulsed with warm light. The witness's words echoed in her mind. Use wisdom, not just strength. I have an idea, she said, but I'll need help. From every human in range. She opened a communication channel to all human ships, thousands of them. My name is Yuna, she said. Some of you know who I am. Some don't, it doesn't matter. What matters is what we are. We're human. We're the descendants of the beings who nearly destroyed the galaxy. We carry their power in our blood, but we also carry something they lost. Compassion, restraint, the ability to choose mercy over vengeance. She held up the slate. This artifact wants to share its knowledge with all of you, not to make you gods, but to remind you what you really are. I'm asking you to trust me, to accept this gift, and to help me do something our ancestors could never do. What's that? Someone asked over the channel. Choose peace over power, Yuna said. She released the slate's knowledge, not all of it, just enough. It flowed through the communication channels, touching every human mind that was open to it. Thousands of people gasped as genetic memories awakened. They didn't become superhuman. They didn't gain godlike abilities, they just remembered what their ancestors had learned too late. That power without wisdom leads only to ash and regret. The Empress watched this happening and panicked. She gave the order to activate the consuming star immediately. The massive device began to pulse. Energy tendrils reached toward Earth's sun, ready to drain its life. But Yuna wasn't trying to fight the device. Instead, she used the slate to broadcast its knowledge to everyone in the system. Not just humans, everyone, even the Vrath. She showed them the truth, the Ancient One's final days, their regret, their desperate attempt to undo their mistakes. She showed them the cycle of power and corruption that had destroyed civilization after civilization. And she asked a simple question, broadcasting it to every mind in the system. Do we repeat this, or do we choose something better? Across the Vrath fleet, soldiers and officers saw the truth. Many had joined the military believing they served a noble cause. Now they saw what the Empress really was, what she wanted to become, another tyrant reaching for godhood. Ships began to stand down. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to create doubt, enough to hesitate. On the Empress's flagship, Velshara raged. But her own crew was wavering. They had seen the truth too. The cyborg warrior, Karos, approached her. For the first time in years, there was something like pity in its mechanical voice. It's over, it said. The soldiers won't follow you into damnation. I am the Empress, Velshara screamed. I am power itself. No, Karos said quietly. You're just afraid. Afraid of being forgotten, of being irrelevant. The Empress raised a weapon, but Karos was faster. The cyborg disarmed her gently, almost sadly. End this, it said, before you destroy everything. Velshara looked out at her fleet, at the human ships surrounding Earth, at the galaxy watching and judging. She saw the truth in their eyes. She had already lost. She slumped in her throne, suddenly looking very old and very tired. Deactivate the consuming star, she ordered quietly. The deadly device powered down. The crisis was over. But the galaxy had changed forever. What had been shown could not be unseen. The Vrath Empire's legitimacy crumbled as world after world questioned why they should follow leaders who would threaten to commit genocide. In the aftermath, Yuna found herself at the center of something she never wanted, a movement. A revolution, not of violence but of ideas. Species across the galaxy demanded representation, demanded to be heard. The old order of ancient empires ruling over younger races was dying. Theron approached her on the observation deck of their ship, now orbiting Earth. They want you to lead, he said. Create a new government, a coalition. I'm not a leader, Yuna protested. I'm a salvage worker. You're the person who chose mercy when vengeance would have been easier, Theron replied. That's exactly what we need. It took months of negotiation. Species that had been enemies for millennia had to learn to talk instead of fight. But slowly, painfully, the Accord of New Dawn took shape. A coalition government where all species had equal representation, where decisions were made by consensus, not force. The Slate became the Accord's neutral arbiter. Its power could only be accessed if the majority agreed it was necessary and just. No single person could wield it. Not even Yuna. She stood as the first arbiter, not a ruler but a mediator. It was exhausting work. There were days she missed the simple life of salvage runs and engine repairs. But there were also moments of hope. Watching former enemies work together, seeing freed Kryn building new homes, witnessing Sylth hives creating art instead of weapons. Humanity found its place in this new galaxy, not as conquerors or servants but as equals. The genetic awakening Yuna had triggered didn't make humans better than others. It just reminded them of their potential, good and bad. Some humans struggled with the knowledge, some tried to use it for personal gain, but most understood the lesson. They had been given a second chance that their ancestors never got. The chance to do better. Years passed. The Empress was tried for her crimes and exiled to a remote world where she could harm no one. Many of her loyal officers followed her, still believing in the old ways. The galaxy let them go. Some ideas died hard. Karos surprisingly requested to serve the Accord. The cyborg warrior had seen enough war. Now it wanted to protect peace instead. Yuna appointed it as the Accord's military advisor. Taemin recovered fully and joined Yuna's work. Together, the siblings researched ancient sites, always careful to share their findings with all species. No more secrets. No more hidden weapons. On the 5th anniversary of the Accord, Yuna stood on Earth looking up at the stars. Minji and Donghyun stood with her along with Taemin. They were older now, scarred by what they'd endured, but alive. Do you ever regret it? Minji asked. Not taking the slate's full power? You could have been a god, Yuna smiled. Gods are lonely. I'd rather be human. She felt the slate's presence in her mind. It was quieter now, less demanding. They had reached an understanding. It provided knowledge and protection, but only when truly needed. The rest of the time it simply watched, learning about humanity as much as they learned from it. The slate pulsed once warmly. In her mind, Yuna heard its voice for the first time in months. Well done, daughter of humanity. You have become what we could not. Better than your inheritance. Yuna touched the small medallion she wore around her neck, all that remained visible of the slate's power. We're all just trying to do better than those who came before us. That is the essence of growth, the slate replied. Of evolution. Of hope. Up in the sky, ships from a dozen species flew past in formation. A patrol keeping the peace. Among them were human vessels, their crews working alongside Kryn, Sylth, and even Vrath who had chosen the new way. The galaxy wasn't perfect. There were still disputes, still conflicts, still those who longed for the old powers. But for the first time in recorded history, there was also genuine hope. Hope that different species could live together, could grow together, could choose something better than the endless cycle of power and destruction. Donghyun nudged Yuna. Come on. Celebrations are starting. And I heard they're serving actual Earth food instead of that synthetic stuff. Yuna laughed. It felt good to laugh. After everything they'd been through, the simple act of finding joy felt like a victory in itself. As they walked toward the celebration, Yuna took one last look at the stars. Somewhere out there, other young species were probably making the same mistakes the ancient ones had made, reaching for power without wisdom, choosing domination over cooperation. But maybe, if they were lucky, they would also get a second chance, a moment to choose differently, to learn from the past instead of repeating it. The slate had been called cursed, a weapon that scorched all who touched it. But Yuna had discovered the truth. It wasn't a curse. It was a test. And humanity, for all their flaws, had passed. The story of the cursed slate ended not with fire and ash, but with hope and celebration. With different species learning to trust each other. With the understanding that true strength came not from the power to destroy, but from the wisdom to choose not to. Yuna had touched the slate and it had sighed her name, recognizing in her something the ancient ones had lost. The ability to carry great power with humility, to face impossible choices and choose the harder right over the easier wrong. She was just a salvage worker, just a human, just someone trying to find her lost brother and maybe make the galaxy a little better. But sometimes that was enough. Sometimes that was everything.